Welcome to a Bestow TV production. If you enjoy our content, please click the subscribe button. To get notifications of new releases, ring that bell. Thank you, and away we go.
I will ask the questions. What do you want to ask me?
I want to talk about your...
I don't want to talk about my career.
Bestow Productions presents Creative Continuity at New York Comic Con 2013. Get the latest news directly from artists, writers, and the occasional celebrity appearance. Tune in for Creative Continuity's coverage of NYCC. We bring the convention to you.
Right now, I want to talk about your career. What is your career?
I want to be a journalist.
I don't care what you want to be.
We're here at the Dark Horse booth with writer Joshua Williamson.
I think I just kept working, you know, like I just never give up, never surrender. I suppose I just constantly just kept doing the work, man. Just kept making the comics and trying to put together as much as I could. And I think, you know, just trying my hardest. Like, no one is hard on me than me, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so with things like Ghosted, I just put a lot of work into it, and it came out, and people liked it.
Yeah, what was your first major project, would you think?
I think, you know, I got lucky doing, I did some stuff for DC. I did an issue. It's really funny, like I did a book on Mr. Evil for Desperado many years ago that was optioned by Cartoon Network. And when that happened, I started getting attention from other people. I did a book called Dear Dracula that was turned into a cartoon on Cartoon Network. But then, you know, I started doing stuff for DC, like I did some Superman, Batman. I started doing Voodoo. We were talking about that earlier. I did some Voodoo. But then eventually it led to me doing this stuff at DC and here at Dark Horse. Like I'm doing Captain Midnight for Dark Horse. I'm doing Predator for Dark Horse. And then, yeah, Ghosted with Image. But I think Ghosted in a lot of ways is probably one of my bigger projects to date, just because of the scope of it and how many people seem to respond to it.
How'd you and Sammy Basri redo the book, refunction it?
That was sort of one thing that was kind of told to us what we needed to do. It was, they knew the direction they wanted to change it to, and they kind of said that's what we wanted to do. With me and Sammy, we just sort of talked out, you know, like me through our editor mostly. At the time, my editor was Bobby Chase and Katie Kubert, and they really knew, you know, DC really knew what they wanted to do with the book. I think they wanted to change directions with it. And they just started talking about trying to go the twin angle, having the clone. Going the clone, they wanted to get away from the ship joint, they wanted to take off into space. And they told me that's what they wanted. They wanted to try to get away from those things. And so that's what I did. I started taking it away and trying to make it more of an action sci-fi book.
Yeah, you did a very good job with that.
Thanks,
too.
man. Yeah, I wish we could have done a little bit more. You know, I think I had some ideas for things. Not everything got to work out. And I was disappointed when we ended on the Zero issue. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like by the time I got to the Zero issue, I had said what I wanted to say with that character. Yeah. And so we were able to kind of wrap it up the way I wanted. You know, I was happy with it.
Well, with Voodoo, I was wondering, did you feel that when you took on the book, it was more, there was a sense of wanting to move away from the sex appeal that was kind of...
You know, yes and no. It's kind of funny. I think they wanted to get away from the strip joint, but they didn't want to get away from the sex appeal. I kind of wanted to get away from the sex appeal. I wanted to focus on just her as a character and, you know, sort of the space adventure. You know, the strong woman character kind of dealing with identity. Because that was the whole thing with the two characters. They both had a loss of identity. And so I was trying to focus on that with them and avoid it. But I think it was a weird balance, again, like a balancing act, because they did want it, but they didn't at the same time. So it was hard to try and find it. And I don't know if I ever did. But in the end, again, I was happy with it in the end. Originally, my plan was, what I wanted to do, and I was pitching from the very beginning, was I really wanted to turn the clone, Voodoo, essentially. I really wanted to turn Voodoo into a bad guy. Like, I really wanted to make her like a major villain. And that's the only thing that I disappointed is I wish I had more time to do that. Because I even wanted her, I mean, it's kind of funny, I wanted her to like kill Priscilla. You know, I wanted her to like that be that moment of finally becoming a bad guy, of like, because Priscilla, the original Priscilla, was supposed to be symbolic of her innocence. Yeah. And Voodoo, learning that she was a clone, was going to slowly start breaking down, like emotionally, mentally. Oh, yeah. And then eventually, if she was able to kill Priscilla, then she would have been able to sort of like ascend that even more evil scale. You know, we didn't even get to do that, but I still got to do what I wanted.
After maybe post Voodoo, build up a relationship with Dark Horse?
I had known Dark Horse for a while, and we've been talking about different projects we were going to do. A few different things that kind of floated around. We had talked about doing Captain Midnight like a couple years ago, and it didn't work out for a variety of reasons. And then so last summer, over a year ago, they came to me and they said, you know, do you want to do a Captain Midnight thing? And we talked about it a lot with Mike Richardson. He loves Captain Midnight, and so it really was a passion project for him. So him and I started talking about what he wanted to do. And I was able to just find some really cool stuff to do with it. I like pulp heroes a lot, and so I was able to sort of tell this really cool story with this pulp hero in present day. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been really good working with Dark Horse.
What's your working relationship like with them versus maybe DC?
You know, it's a little different because DC is in New York, and I live in Portland, Oregon, and Dark Horse is in Milwaukee, Oregon, which is really close. And so I'm able to go down every few weeks and talk story with them and really sit down with them. And it's a lot closer. It's a lot tight-knit because I'm able to actually sit there having lunch, have a beer and just discuss the story and have a lot more in-depth conversations about Captain Midnight and the direction we want to go. So in a lot of ways, it's been better for that, And the same thing with the Predator book. We're doing for the Predator thing, what we're doing is a relaunch of Prometheus, Aliens, AVP, and Predator. And so with that, we've been having these big writer rooms where we're all sort of sitting there talking about it together and discussing and breaking the story and figuring it all out together. And it's been really rewarding and an awesome creative experience to do it that way. And I wouldn't do that with DC because I don't live in New York.
How is it to follow up on the heels of that franchise?
Well, for me, I'm a continuity junkie, and so to do anything that would ignore what has come before would be sacrilege. So I'm a big fan of the Predator movies, and if you notice with the Predator movies, each one kind of stands alone, and so that's the focus I've had with Predator. It is a little intimidating, but mostly it's intimidating because I feel like everything I do right now I want to be amazing. So, everyone does, of course. So with Predator, I'm really trying to make sure it's really strong, and I really like a great work. And also because I'm in the same room with a lot of writers I respect, I feel like there's a little bit of a one-upmanship with us. Everyone wants to have the best book of the four. So it's interesting. It's a lot of fun. I love working on this kind of stuff, and doing a Predator book it's great. The story we're doing is it's basically Moby Dick with a Predator, where it's this old Predator who's sort of at the ends of his life, and has been doing all this sort of war-torn Predator. He's been around, he's fought the fight, he's all this stuff, he's killed a lot of people, and there's one more thing he wants to kill. He has that one thing, that last great hunt, and so our series is about him on that last great hunt. I can't say what it is he's hunting yet, but when you read issue 1, you'll know what it is, and you'll be like, oh shit, yeah, that makes sense. Originally Ghost was a 5-issue mini, and now it's ongoing. So I went down there in June to discuss what we were going to do for the ongoing. I have a couple other books planned with them, so we went down there and just talked, and it's really cool sitting there. Kirkman is a really smart guy. He knows what he's talking about, and so being able to sit there and just discuss what our plans with him has been really rewarding. He's cool. It's really interesting, and he doesn't shy away from telling you what he thinks, and being honest. Yeah. So it's been really cool.
Who would you say you have more back and forth with in terms of companies on ideas between the two?
Definitely Dark Horse, between Dark Horse and Image, because with Image it's usually just me, doing my own thing, and sort of, it's all me and the artist, essentially. And a little bit, with Image I do have editors I talk to, and there's a little bit, but it seems more of a let's make sure this isn't bad sort of thing. Well, same thing with Dark Horse, but they have other directives they have to sort of follow. And so with them, there's a lot more back and forth, a lot more notes and changes, but I don't mind it because I know with both companies, one of the things I think is great right now, and I think you always want to have, is that everything that they want right now is just to make good comics. That is the priority. And so it's been really great keeping that in mind while I'm working on the book.
We are talking with the great
Reinforcer Andrew Anderson. I'm going to tell you something. There's a documentary of my career called Behind the Ropes. Go to behindtheropes.com. It's not your usual run-of-the-mill documentary. It's about professional wrestling, yes, but it's about my 23-year career and about the friendships that I cultivated in this business. It's about friends through wrestling, because of wrestling, and in the wrestling business. So it goes from the bottom rung ring guys that put up the ring to all the actors, actresses that I met in the business, to the legends like Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine and Tito Santana to my right. But for the most part, it's about friendship, and friendship is what it's all about. So this is not your knucklehead thing about drugs, sex, drugs, and the usual BS that goes on in the wrestling business. So what else do you want to ask?
I want to ask, how did you decide to become a wrestler?
When I was a kid, everybody wanted to be a doctor, lawyer, engine chief, but I had an uncle named Ole Anderson, and Ole Anderson was in the business. And I was told not to go into that line of work. But
why was that?
It was a cutthroat business, and not a lot of people made it. But I started out with Nikolai Volkov as my tag team partner as a Siberian Tiger. I trained under the tutelage of Jimmy Snuka and Nikolai Volkov. Eventually, I became my real name, Andrew Anderson, and here I am. I did The Wrestler, a couple other movies, and I'm doing all right.
How did your partnership with Nikolai kind of push you forward more?
It pushed me forward because, I mean, Nikolai was obviously a name. I was an up-and-comer, so it was a lot easier for me to get out there with Nikolai's tag team partner, and he showed me the do's and don'ts of the business, but it was really Jimmy Snuka who really took care of me in the business and broke me in. And then later on, years later, I met this guy called The Disciple when I was in WCW, and they said, you have to use your real name. So eventually I became Andrew Anderson, and that was when everything broke free, and that was Brutus Beefcake.
What was your favorite wrestling match you ever played?
Favorite wrestling match was against this guy named Mo Sexy on the independent scene, where I dove off the steel cage and became my trademark, diving off cages.
Awesome. How is it? You mentioned The Wrestler. I mean, how is that working on with like guys like Mickey Rourke?
Mickey Rourke's a great guy. It was great working with Darren Aronofsky. He really put me back on the map. I was ready to retire with a torn ACL at that point, but he got me a lot of career, a lot of stuff. The Skittles commercial, the Doritos commercials, and a lot of. I'm actually doing pretty good with the endorsements.
Yeah. Did that really? You said that really propelled your career back. I mean, what was it about that really? People were going for you or something? Or?
All of a sudden, people were booking me left and right because Alpha of the Wild Samoans and WXW basically trained Mickey, and a lot of his workers were used as extras in the movie. I myself and a couple other wrestlers actually auditioned for the role, and through Evan Ginsberg and Darren Aronofsky, and we were there at the auditions. So I actually wound up getting grandfathered into the Screen Actors Guild, which helped me a lot in the business. My book, It's Really Not My Fault, will be published pretty soon. Written by Andrew Anderson and horror author Nick Casilla.
This is Mr. Anderson, this is Tommy Zimmer, and we are the dynamic duo partnership that forms Creative Continuity. Thank you very much. We're here at New York Comic Con 2013.
Don't worry about it. We're at the New York Comic Con 2013 with the reinforcer Andrew Anderson and some guy named Zimmer over here. So we don't care about Zimmer. We care about the Comic Con, the fans, the wrestling guys in the business. Greg the Hammer Valentine, Bruce the Barber Beefcake, Tito Santana, and the reinforcer Andrew Anderson. That's all that matters. Go to BehindTheRopes.com. What you wearing?
Combined.
0.
Really?
Yeah, you're not dressed for success.
This is a beautiful shirt.
Yeah, if you're boring.
Watch Creative Continuity, Cartoons, Con Rewind, Mr. Lobo Does, and more on this channel.
Creative Continuity. We bring the convention to you.